My curls aren't gonna come back. Oh, I'm making it worse. That's weird that you can. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Well, it is a new day. It is a new day. Do, 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 do. But it's night, and it's not a new day. It's, well, a new moment. Shout out to Synergy in Motion. Yeah. What is the latest and the greatest? You're wondering, Leslie, to Leslie? What are the noticings? I guess a big one is I'm kind of like in this recovery mode from slipping a little bit, from clear mind versus wanting to be informed. Um, 2020, you've been such a year. And like, especially like as, the pandemic like started and, hours at work started slowing down. I had more time at home. Plus, like, everyone's kind of in freak out mode. So, like, no one's really doing anything. So, I didn't have to be in anyone's aura. I just gotta, like, stay home with a bunch of free time. Yeah, I did what probably a lot of my mental projector friends did. We mentaled it up. Oh my gosh, like, I spent so much time. I was, like, just all up on the internet, like, just taking all things in, like, Neo, just getting plugged in, like, downloading. With that said, though, I came across a lot of information that has not made me feel good by any means. And, again, like, I go to, like, about the dark forces of this density. So, yeah, I had a rough couple of months early on as, like, I was essentially red pilling. And that's with me knowing kind of like the weird out there stuff that I've already researched and studied. Like, I was already pretty familiar about the satanic elements of the music and entertainment industry and film. But like, I started like really understanding the extent and things like Pizzagate and Adrenochrome and like, all these other sorts of things started coming up where I was like, say it ain't so, Jack. Say it ain't so. But it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot like, and I understand. I understand conspiracy theories and all of that jazz. Makes a lot more sense than it does not. And it, like, just because people keep saying these things have been discredited, when you look at the information, they have not. So I'm like, okay, well, there's evidence on this end, and then just denial or over freak out. And so I say all that to say, like, so this week especially, like, we've been experiencing, we're at this point in 2020, we were at Wayfair Gate. All right. So the online retailer accused of like child trafficking. So I'm not finna be here being one of them ones who are gonna like I know I was thinking it would be so cool if I could figure out how to do this, like putting in videos and links and things like that, so that I could say something and then it links to another thing, and then I was like, okay, well. Here I go with my ABs. I already know I do that, and I've done that in emails a lot. And nobody reads half that information. They don't go, and then I spend a lot of time putting that stuff together, and I do feel a little some kind of way that they didn't go and check it out. But no shade on them. It's like, but I'm just saying it's a lot of extra time, work, and effort, and I'm like, I'm still on, I just need to keep focused and like crawl before I walk, you know what I mean? So I'm not trying to get all out there. But I was also like, right, B, this is, again, no shade to you, whomever viewer you are, of past, present, or future. I am doing this for me, so I'm hearing myself, I'm watching myself. I mean, I am doing it for the collective you at some point somehow. Like, I mean, under the guise of like, though I get it, we're all reflections of one another. We're all part of the one. So, I mean, you are another aspect of me, and I of you. And that is why the right people will see these sorts of things, and, the people who this isn't for won't. So, and then if that's only what, the two people I've seen, my last one, so be it. But perhaps in the future, well, I mean, I don't know. I don't even have a perhaps in the future. Because again, I go back with this is for me. So, those are those things. I had a point C, but I lost where I think I was going. But I will say thanks to whomever is rocking with me on this. Like, I was stressing about how, like, another thing that I was stressing myself out about on is, like, worrying about talking too much about the same things. Like, I'm sure I'm going to talk about the same things, especially if I do these videos more frequently. That's inevitable. But all of the ideas will build upon one another, and I've been kind of like beating myself up a little bit on. I really wish I sounded more eloquent, and I guess that's why I wanted to do the writing. I feel like I sound better in writing because I can edit and put in the right words, or I can put the link or find the exact name, and not to sound smart, but just to have the thought go through, rather than like when I vocalize and I'm like, gosh darn. So, I was tripping about that, but then I was also like, but that literally is my design. I mean, I am designed to replay stories. Like, that is the channel. I'm designed to retell stories. I'm designed that they'll change. They'll change and probably be manipulated a little bit. Not in any deliberate, malicious way. In fact, if anything, to romanticize the story, to turn it into poetry as the bards. But how does that get formulated? What is that draft process, Like, this was always my thing about... Always. This was my thing when I was first getting into human design and such, and it was like, as I was, like, looking things up, and good God, like, especially for a mental projector, not a whole lot at the time. I mean, and things are increasing now, so I only can imagine, like, people that I look up to, my teachers, where it was at for them, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, like when Raw started. Just kind of nuts, I think. So, yeah, I mean, kudos and props to you guys. I think I was going somewhere, but I lost that. But I will say that this is for, the future. This experiment. Like, stories might change up. The stories will inevitably change up. And it might get boring or overwhelming, but, like, I need to hear that. That's why I keep talking about it, obviously, or that's why I keep trying to process it. But this is about watching the experiment for me. Like, trying to watch the switchboard at play, right? Because that's what I was saying. Like, I felt like when I was first getting into this, there wasn't a whole lot of people talking about human design. Certainly much more in 2 years it's increased, I will say, but I can't imagine, or I don't know, even though it came into my awareness before, it's funny. So I imagine how difficult it was for, like I was saying, my teachers to try to study and to learn, but, a lot of people like to learn or like to hear someone else's, story first, or perspective, or how they went through it. Like, think about testimonials, right? Like, why do they work? People want, they want to hear, how your experience was. And while I don't claim, again, I am not a teacher. I am not, don't hold me to anything that I say. Please, because it will change. It will change by the end of this, probably. But I am an example, just one, and you can't use that as far, like, you're going to have to think for your own damn self. You're gonna have to look up your own stuff. Like, if there's something that is said that is curious to you, or that you're like, you want to learn more about, like in terms of, like Wayfair Gate or whatever, then look that up, right? Don't be one of them folks like, in the DMs or in the comments, like, who's the author of that? What is your source? I think that is the craziest. Okay, so that's my full circle. Yes, yes. And yes, this is just my experiment. But for those in the future, you know what? Like, it'll be interesting, because maybe by the time, like, in months or years or whatever, like, this story, in fact, will sound very fluid, and it will, have all the right proper pronouns, and, and you'll hear it at that time, and that'll be what was necessary. But it took all of this to build up to that. And that, I don't think that's expressed out into the world enough as far as an example. It's just like all of a sudden magic happens, and then people are where they are. It's sort of like when you're trying to get a job and they're like, oh, need to have experience, but then you don't get hired unless you have the experience, and it's like, what's going on here? What's this little trick? This isn't, my experiment isn't the trick. I'm not even sure if it's my trick. I'm trying to make it into a trick. And I just happen to be doing this, in a very, open sort of a way that feels pretty safe and private for a hermit. But, sometimes I have difficulties because I'm aware that this is not just me. And yet, I've also understood that I sort of need that. Like, in this regard, this is my accountability. I'm not really counting on bunches of people to watch this or anything, but, like, someone, and that needing to be recognized, that projectorship comes through heavy and hard. And with that, my full circle, there we go. I am not going to be one of them ones putting all that research and stuff in there. Is that doesn't honor me and my time and what I hope I really get to express or exude through these videos energetically, and the positive vibes, right? All of that. I feel like when I see that in the comments and stuff of not like on my stuff, I'm not like nobody's commenting, but like I don't, on the things that are like that I'm reading and researching and trying to stay informed about, right, in the world, and I see these comments and people are so quick to be like, source, what was their name, where was this from, who was this, where was that, and I'm like, you don't actually care about that though. You're just saying that to add information. And yeah, I'm sure there are people, and then they're going to use that information, so I suppose someone needed that, but to me that just seems so silly. And then half the time, especially as I'm in on the, all these online classes and stuff, and watching these teachers being so patient with students, asking the same questions over and over, or asking something that was literally just answered before. I feel like that's how, what was her name? Kaylee? Kaylee must feel at those White House press briefings, conferences, like, oh my gosh, like, it's painful. It's painful to watch these things. So anyways, yes. Another announcement. Am I right? I've decided I'm not going to trip so hard on trying to, like, put in inserts and things. Like, I've already said it. If you're listening, then boom, you know how to hit up your Google. But this kid's got more things to say. But yeah, so, like, when I say, these comments and things that I'm seeing, like, that alone already bothers me, and just kind of like, these are the sheeple that I'm talking about. These are the types of folks, like, I love you, I mean, human race, right? But, like, oh, come on, please, think, be beyond. Stop being so predictable. And wasting our time. Like, that's where I'm at. It was like, so, I went through my dark night of the soul, going through the real red pilling, right? Like I didn't eat for like a month. I was crying so hard. I'm like, oh man, my prayer game was on point. Like, yeah, and I mean, I still feel that way, but I'm human too, because like my faith has been restored, and like my understanding of the overarching good and what all this must actually mean as we move through densities and ascend in body, and you know, realize this is what the splitting of the worlds look like. Nobody knew. We didn't know. Like, we all knew something was coming. We just can't get upset that it came in a way that nobody saw. How else would it have come? Which, I mean, to that I say, good golly, Miss Molly Mother Earth, you are amazing. But also I remember that everything in this universe moves pretty precisely. Everything is very exact. You just even consider what all had to go down just for you to be born, to be alive every day. This whole system, the whole ecology of it all, there's a lot going. The butterfly effect, right? I mean, yeah, even the most minutia. So everything must be happening for reason and for purpose, and a great representation of how I'm not my mind, if I am the all, and all of this is happening. So I know, therefore, that the most important thing I can do at any given time is be focused on the rise, is be focused on righteousness, is be focused on purity, is focused on gratitude, is focused on love. I'm pretty good. I'm a grateful person, but I also, as I've certainly been privy to in these videos, I'm aware of my judgments, like say the sheeple and stuff like that. And you know what? I have to kind of come to this understanding, like, again, like, that's design. That's what I see. That's what I be. But, like, I am not that. That's just the observation. And, okay. And I'm not harming. And, like, I'm not trying to get into, like, being in a situation of trying to justify myself, because that's not what this is about at all. This is about my noticing that I had been slipping from being focused on the rise, like fully taking care of my body, like being in a state of gratitude, like all the time. Like I'm talking about, like, and I say this because I was reminded of this the other day while I was in silence. I was feeling this urge, and I think it's even, maybe it spawns from this. Like, I feel like my inner dialogue is sort of like turning into this, I'm speaking to someone. And I think I started to go into this before. I've done this before. I mean, like, that's normally how I do my mental dialogue. I mean, it is usually like I'm talking to someone, or I used to think like I was, and maybe it is, but like maybe I'm someone's channel on some other planet or galaxy, or like there's not in some self-important sort of a way. It's just that's what, and I feel all sorts of tinglies, like either like maybe there's some truth to that, or like whoever's watching this is like feeling samesies or laughing. But I've noticed that when oh gosh, I have all sorts of tingles right now. It's so crazy. But I notice that, like, since I've been doing these videos more frequently, that is sort of how I talk in my mind more. And so, like, when I had this day of silence and I was talking like this, I was just like, look, I'm gonna just start talking out loud. Like, I can't even anymore with the words in my head. I'm like, I really just want to be quiet. So then I started speaking out loud, and that was kind of interesting. And then I started going, I was like, because I was getting too caught up on the words, which I think I do here. It's like I start talking on words, and then other thoughts are being triggered by the words. So I was doing this technique that I was doing the I was talking in tongues, if you will. So I also call it gibberish. I also call it light language. Osho has meditation where it's called gibberish. I guess it's the evangelicals. I don't know which kind of Christian group it is, but they're the ones who really believe in, so that's from the Bible, talking in tongues. And then, like, the New Age spiritual movement talks about light language, where it's like either extraterrestrial or like your original language with your family, things like that. So, either way, I love them all. I guess I was first introduced through gibberish, and then I connected these other three as like, oh, it's all the same. But as a meditation, it was just so beautiful because it was like you're saying things, and I express. I don't know if you've caught that about me, but like I emote quite a bit when I speak. So you're just speaking a language that you just make up, or the other sides would argue that it's not that you're making up, right? But in terms of like teaching, I guess right now, like it's just a language that you just make up, and you just go, and that process of doing that kind of bypasses your mind because your mind doesn't understand any of it. But I know for me, like I'm still expressing and feeling and moving like when I'm speaking my light language. So I was just going around and doing that, and it was a very freeing, very kind of curious thing. Like I don't think I've ever done that for so long throughout the day. Like there were plenty of moments where I was like, oh my gosh, you crazy, crazy girl. Like this is how they start talking to themselves out in the streets. But then I was also like, you know what? No. Respect to our elders. This is when you see them strong Christian black women who are speaking out loud to God, oh Lord. You know what I'm saying? Like that's beautiful. Maybe that's keeping God in your mind and your heart, right? So that's what's most important. So it's one of those things where it's like I find that I need to be in the process and not get so caught up in the world, right? Like I'm glad the world is waking up right now. There's a lot going on. There's a lot that's going to continue to go on, and I know that like they say to enjoy the show. Like this is not a show I'm trying to watch, son. Right? Like this is the fall. Like I'm not one of them, Jerry Springer, Maury Povich fans, right? Like I was, like for a little minute when I was like 12. But I'm not, like as a personal type. Like I don't get off on watching people fight or be angry or sad or feeling like, and this show that's playing out right now, it's some serious emotions, and like I feel it, and yeah, like there's a part of me that does want to see people like waking up and putting things together and like clicking, but at the same time I'm like, my friends, you are keeping me from my rise though. Like if the highest thing is my mental state and how I can create in my reality and focusing on myself, even knowing that as I work on myself, that others are like around me all over the world, part of the blanket, we are all joining in oneness and divinity, like, and that is so not selfish. That is like actually the highest, most noblest, the most only thing you can do. Because as you do that, of course you help your fellow man. Of course you do things for others. But how much of the things that we really do in this world are for others, or we just proclaim to be? Like, speaking of one of my teachers, I'm so glad they're back. Well, they're not back. They didn't go anywhere. They were living their lives. I'm glad they have the energy and the idea to get back on YouTube, I'll say. But John Martin and Teresa Blanding with Human Design Hawaii, right? And they're doing this Living as Self series. And actually, like, listening to that, hopefully going forward, I'm going to remember. Now, when I say, like, I will no longer say body design and personality design. I will say body hexagram. Not hexagram. Oh, body crystal. I'll say body crystal and personality crystal. And then refer to the joint factor, because they are tied through the magnetic monopole, as then the design. So, hence going forth, I will, another announcement, A, B, proclaiming that I will say something accurately. But body crystal, personality crystal, design. So, but they are back, and they are back on doing videos and teachings, and I really resonate with their way of presenting info. Like, I can dig it, man. Like, I really just understand, like, that, and it's like something I'm trying to get to. It's like I'm fighting within myself to understand that it's like, this is your trip. Like, why's the trip? It's all okay. There's nothing to do. And that's like why it's nice to see these people being red-pilled and becoming aware of what's going on. It's like, that's not my battle. I mean, my battle is I feel it, right? Like, I'm definitely, as an empath, like, I see it, I'm picking it up, I'm helping to transmute, but like, my way of transmuting is definitely not out there with them. No, but like, I mean, I'm not the cat in the streets. I'm not like the digital soldier even. My way is like this, you know? And through the conversations that I have, and through hopefully dropping little crumbs that people will then pick up and then do some darn researching for themselves, you know? Because maybe then people will understand how there's just no time for a lot of this nonsense. So it's like, my focus has to be on the rise, on the righteousness, like 110%. And I know, like, I want entertainment, and there's things to watch and do. I mean, I don't need to watch Hidden Power University, class videos all day, every day. I can mix some stuff up in there, and I do. But I still could do more of it. Like, if I'm not doing that, like, I could be reading more. And this isn't, and I know I just got through saying that there's nothing that you need to be doing, so I'm kind of hearing myself and like, Leslie, just, because that's the truth. The other side of it is there is nothing to do. I could be okay with what I'm doing already. And I say that, but what I mean is, like, it is okay. It is, like, it's happening. Whatever is happening is happening. I was thinking, because, so, alright, this is, okay, let me go. Alright, so today, I had a situation. It's not 28 minutes? Yeah, I'll finish with the story. It's gonna still take me like 40 minutes, whatever. So I've been mailing out, like, my packages and things like that I've been wanting to do, and I have been also detoxing, because I let myself get into a little bit of wine after vacation, and yeah, that's see previous posts if they're still up. But yeah, I had to, like, clean up again. Right now, I'm always triggered in the afternoon, like when it starts getting a little later. It's like, oh, well, just a little shippy, right? And when I go to the post office, I always will walk by the grocery store. So it's like, oh, well, I'll go in and get, maybe some cookies or maybe some wine. So to circumvent, like, even that being, a challenge, I just left my wallet at home. I was just gonna walk. So I was triggered, actually, and then I forgot I left my wallet, because I was like, well, maybe, let me see, and then I was like, oh, I didn't even know. I was like, good job, Les. So anyways, like, I I ended up kind of detouring. Like, I just kind of let myself get guided home. And I didn't take my direct route. And then I kind of went this way. And then I kind of went that way. And anyways, I ended up turning down the street. And I see this gentleman, an older gentleman who used to frequent my place of employment. And I would see him as he would come in. And he would sort of always, like, flirt. I shouldn't say sort of. He would flirt. Comment on my eyes. He seemed really captivated with my eyes. An older business gent would, go in there for a drink or whatever. And so I saw him, and, normally, like, people don't recognize me outside of work. And then they certainly haven't recognized me, like, with the haircut or, like, if I have my glasses on or something. So this gent noticed and recognized me, and he was sitting down outside, and he invited me to sit down, and was just like, oh my gosh, hey, wow. I was like, how'd you even recognize me? He was like, it was the eyes. I look at your eyes. I was like, oh wow, interesting. But then, he started going into this, like, even before when he would come through, he was nice enough, but, like, when you're just conversating politely, slightly flirtatiously, right? Like, there's a back and forth, a slight banter, but he, like, would always kind of, like, dominate the conversation, like, so I just kind of, like, learned to pull back. Like, initially I'd get, like, annoyed, but I'm like, girl, you at work? Like, this is not your man? Like, just, alright, yes, But I'm not in uniform today, right? Like, so it was a little bit more annoying until I remembered that, and then I had to, like, okay. Because he's nice enough. I'm not trying to say anything, like, shady or bad about him or whatever. As much as, like, so then, like, I'll just say what he came out and was like, he straight up was like, wow, if I knew you looked like this, or it was like this, or whatever, commenting about my figure or whatever. And, obviously he was interested, is what he was getting at. And then he I kind of kept trying to go around the question, because I dance around issues. And he was like, what did he say? He was like, I think we should make two things happen, okay? I was like, I'm going to listen. I'm not going to agree until I hear them. And he goes, we should get involved romantically. And I'm like, no. I don't think so. And then he was like, and we should start a business. And I only bring this up because obviously this is, it was a new invitation. This just happened today, and it happened with a lot of, like, weird, kind of outside circumstances, right? So, like I said, the whole rerouting to happen to get to cross, like, to be right on the street. Like, I don't even walk on that street. To be right there, all those timings, again, I say, everything happens. It's very precise. And then it's like, all right, is this for the rise or is this for the demise, right? Like, but then noticing, like, how I felt in the conversation, and remembering, oh, I have to, like, pull back. There was even, like, I guess if you want to talk about a sign, now that I think about it, there was even on the other side of the road, like, a car ended up honking because a truck was reversing, and I almost hit him. It was very close. That was like, boop, right there. So, yeah, I guess, Les, that's a sign. That sounds like a sign, right? And then when he wanted to exchange numbers, I didn't have my phone, right? And not only that, I didn't even have a pen and paper. You should have seen it. I even had a moment with myself earlier where it was like, ooh, because I wanted to write something down, and I didn't have a pen or actually, in my case, I had a pen and I didn't have my binder pad, but in that case, I didn't have pen or paper. I always have these things immediately accessible. I have one in every bag, like, good to go. Apparently, except for today's bag, right? So I say all of that with the patterns. Well, I don't know how I got into it, but I know that I wanted, noticing through the eyes, right? But anyways, what I realized, I did write this down, repeats, he is reflective of a repeat for me. I have seemed to have had a repetitive cycle of attracting into my field these men who come at me with like a business idea, a business proposal, and things just go awry. Like it, at least in this case, he straightforward was like, I think we should, start something romantic. I think there were a few in the past that I suspected as such, but they never stated it. And then, and they're older men too. And in the past, no one, like, they haven't expressed it as directly, like, as this cat did. But if I were to think about it, now that I say that, if I were to really go into it, I probably, okay, so there was, like, that's reflective of kind of this situation. There was C. He had the same name. A C. Psh, that should have been my son then too. X. J. A little slightly different. That one, he certainly was not interested in me, but like romantically or whatever. But like, that was still another one of these like. The situation is, it's these business ideas with these proposals of like, oh, we can make a lot of money. Like in today's case, he was like, yeah, you're very tall. He even said stuff. This is what I'm tripping on. He even said like it's really about getting people to believe you. Because it's something about teaching people about some sort of like marketing style or whatever. And he was like, and you want to, and they'll believe, you've got it. You're tall. Like he kept going to tall, so. Obviously, I'm not feeling recognized if all he had to say about me was I was tall, because he couldn't say that, I had a fat or like I was really pretty or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, you're intelligent, but like he doesn't really know. He didn't really listen to the things that I said. Like he was already, I saw him thinking of the next things he was going to say. Do you know what I mean? So it was really like, okay. So yeah, so I don't feel recognized. And then it's like, it's always this like, I don't know if it's the appeal for the money. It's not so much that it's that. It's like, they hit me with like this opportunity to teach, which obviously I like to talk, to teach. I mean, and then it is an opportunity to like work for myself and be an entrepreneur and like, and then, so it hits me on all these things that I think that I want, with the second C. There was a lot of elements with like getting started on social media, which I'm not very comfortable with. Even still, like I don't even understand that push that I keep getting for social media. Like I don't want to do it, so I'm not gonna. I declare that now. And so here's the other thing. Now I have this again, another older gentleman who seems smart and very intelligent and successful in their field, who then presents themselves to me like, oh, you've got it. You're the light. You're the this. We can go and do a lot. And I'm like, yay! I mean, that sounds dope. But like, yeah, I really want to help people. Like, I mean, even with this marketing thing, I'm like, yeah, because you actually don't even have to spend a lot of money. Like networking, word of mouth. I've worked a lot with small businesses. Like, so I naturally got very excited. But like, I got squashed right quick. Because it does seem like in these cases that it's like they're hitting me where I think I live. I'm like really wanting to help people. And maybe they do. I mean, I'm not trying to say that they don't, but there is also more interest in money. I will say that other C probably was the least interested in money. Or in like that focus. Like I think he wanted to help people the most. But like everyone else, I don't know. I don't really know. I think it's almost gotten progressively like. I don't know if that's to be like, Leslie, how many times does it gotta show up with all what you're feeling for you to say no, thank you, early on instead of jumping in like I tend to, or if it's gonna continue on. I mean, I probably won't say yes now that I've given it this thought. I mean, like I kind of, I mean. open solar plexus. I was just like, please just give me some open, lots of stuff. Please just give me some time to think this over. I mean, like I did do the number thing, but you know, I can control that. Anybody who knows me, I don't have to answer a phone. I'm straight. But yeah, I think that's pretty much. I think I'm pretty good with everything. I feel complete. I hope this went a little bit better without getting too distracted. That last video, like, it kind of killed me. And I did kind of make some notes, so those were my notes. And, I mean, there is a section, but that's for another video, another day. I feel like I really got to, you know, hit a little human design. I'm excited. You know, shout outs to John Martin and Teresa Blandon. I gotta get back onto my focus of righteousness. Y'all got plenty of things up in there to research and study if you so do desire, or, you know, yeah. Yeah, I mean, here's just wishing us all to move forth with clear mind and pure heart. Holla!